go. Okay, can everyone hear me? Yeah? I had one prayer before I came here, and that was that I wasn't going to come directly after Liz Keogh. So the worst has happened, and the rest is going to be a breeze, I think. I used to work in software engineering many years ago, and I've recently come back. I spent quite a long time in the interim doing lots of different things, and one of those things was to do some research at university. So while I was there, I did quite a lot of, followed the scientific method and got to know what that was, what it meant. And imagine my delight to come back to work to find this thing called hypothesis-driven development. Thought, woo, science in software engineering, who knew? This is great. I got very excited about it, thought this is a great thing to do. But then the more I realized, the more I found out about how people implemented it, the more I found out that actually they're using science in the wrong way. Just because it's got the word hypothesis in it doesn't necessarily mean that they're following any sort of scientific rigorous method. And in actual fact, the way that it's done sometimes means that you may end up with results that take you entirely in the wrong direction. So first of all, everybody knows what hypothesis-driven development is. Yes? Hands up? Not many hands? Okay, so very quickly, for those of you who don't know what it is, it's a means by which you can get your product to market quickly. It's got its roots in a book called The Lean Startup by Eric Rice. And it's about taking a feature or a part of your product out to the market and experimenting with it, finding out whether or not it's going to work before you actually commit to what your solution is going to be. So it's using people as in the problem space as your help to experiment and to help you to drive the direction that you take. So it's easy to see how that translates to software engineering. Because we're agile, because we're always putting things out there iteratively, we can see, we can test, we can have the opportunity to test in the wild. And the two important things about hypothesis-driven development are, one, that you're testing it with people that are actually going to be using it. So it's not backroom demos or people in focus groups, it's people's behavior. Eric Rice made the comment that people say one thing and do something entirely different. So this is about actually finding out how people are behaving towards your product. And the second important thing is that it's taking metrics. It's measuring what they're doing and analyzing those metrics to find out whether or not it's something that is going to be valuable to them. It's keeping it in the problem space. Somebody mentioned in the BDD course, it's seeing if your requirements are right. And that's true. It's testing your product before you commit to the solution. It's staying in that problem space, exploring what it is, and using your users to help you to do that. So it's all good. But, right, this is how we see it in the wild. This is what people do. If you Google hypothesis-driven development, this is what you'll see. And this is an example that's borrowed from ThoughtWorks. Anybody here from ThoughtWorks? Oh, okay, well, just close your eyes briefly, or your ears. So this is it. Hypothesis is that increasing the size of the hotel images will help people to be engaged and will encourage them to come and book sites. 5% increase. If we see that, we've got success. Right, good, that all sounds great, doesn't it? Yeah, well, I'm going to pause there for a moment, and I'm going to have a little experiment. I believe I can make people happy by engaging with them in a certain way. Oh God, this could all go terribly wrong. I know I would have succeeded if I can make, say, 70% of the front 2 rows here smile. Okay, ready? So, there's 1, 2, any more? Ooh, Mr. Grumpy. No, smile. Hello. Hi. Smile, smile. Yeah. Lots of smiles. Let's continue with the speaker. Okay, so hands up if you smiled. Okay, I'd say that's more than 70%, wouldn't you? Success! Woo! Yay! So, I can make people happy. Who knew? That's great, isn't it? But, is it? Might some of you have been happy before you came? Something else made you happy? Might you actually not be smiling, but grimacing in a way that says, go away? And where did the 70% come from? Would 60% have been a success? Would 80% have been a success? I just made that bit up. So really, you can start to see why this sort of approach maybe is going to lead you down a blind alley in some circumstances. So what I'm going to do is compare that and have a look at the scientific method. So it looks the same. You have an observation, an idea, a question, you formulate a hypothesis, you go out and do an experiment, and then you take your results, you do the analysis, and you see what's going on. That looks the same. The difference is, and it's a crucial difference, that in science, we're not looking to confirm what we think we believe. We're looking to disprove what we think we believe. And on the BDD course yesterday, I was working with somebody who's sitting beside me, and he said, a passing test tells you nothing about your software. A failing test is where you start to learn. And that's exactly the same principle here. In science, the way that you design an experiment means that you're always looking to try and disprove what your hypothesis is. So there's no confirmation bias. And this method was evolved over about, I don't know, nearly 100 years. Karl Popper, 1930s, principle of falsifiability. And it came about because people knew, as they were doing experiments, that there's actually some pitfalls that they fell into. So the scientific method doesn't arrive with this in one fell swoop, boom. It actually came about because of a number of problems. And I'm going to talk you through some of those problems and see how those problems may transpire in hypothesis-driven development. So you'll see that example that I showed you before coming around again. So the first problem, pitfall, is a confounding variable. Now, a confounding variable gets in the way between the cause and the effect. Something else is causing the effect when it's not you. But you think it's you, because you see the effect at the same time as the cause, and you put two things together, and you think, yeah, that causes that, good. But it doesn't. So in this example, of course, you've got the light coming on, and the plane rocking. Two things are causing wind turbulence. Something else is getting in the way. Something else that can happen with confounding variables is this. That's actually a photograph of a Northern Irishman. That's my dad. And a Dutchman. We've got Dutch people here, haven't we? Hello. One's Dutch and one's Northern Irish. Can you guess who's who? Okay. Well, you can have masking effect as well. So sun cream, or sensible things that you do, put a hat on perhaps, or a jumper, will stop you being burnt. That doesn't necessarily mean that sun stops you getting sunburn, because it does. But something gets in the way and is in between the cause and the effect. So let's see how those two things may manifest themselves in our example. So increasing the size of the hotel image, we know we will have succeeded if 5% more people book. Well, what if there's a concert in town? That's going to affect your bookings, isn't it? In fact, I come from Northern Ireland, as you know, and two things that we do well in Northern Ireland. One is that we sink ships, and the other one is that we blow things up. We're very good at that. And we've got a hotel in Northern Ireland, and it's been blown up the most times in the whole world of any hotel. So it's 33 times in a short space of time. And I hear people talking about, oh, I've been to that hotel. It's like a big tourist attraction. Yeah. So it hasn't been blown up for a while, and I think we need to kind of do another big blast, because otherwise our tourism is going to plummet. But anyway, going back to this, it's easy to see how other things in the environment can affect those results. And it's not necessarily what you've done. So can we have any confidence in our results? I don't think so. Next pitfall is comparison. Now, I think this is one that's probably straightforward. We as human beings don't understand any adjective without comparing it with somebody else, or something else rather. So happy, sad, dark, light, heavy, soft, whatever. All those things, we only really understand, we only have meaning if we compare them with other things that are different. And so if this is a large pint of beer, well, maybe. Now is it a large pint of beer? Now is it a large pint? So I should say glass, pint, give it away, doesn't it? But yeah, we only really understand things by comparison. And similarly, in the scientific method, we have to make sure that we've got some control groups, or before and after, or some way in which to compare things to let us know actually what the difference is. I hope that's straightforward for everybody. So if we look again at our example, we've just done one thing. We've just said, has it gone up by 5% by changing the hotel image? Now, okay, for sure, we've got a before and after. We're looking for an increase. I'll give it that. But we haven't looked at any other features, other things that we might do that also may have that increase. Why don't we try that? Why don't we see what happens? So can we have confidence that this one thing made that difference? I don't think so. Next, side effects. Everyone knows about side effects because of medical research. Actually, they're not side effects. That's a misnomer. They're just effects. They're effects of the drug that you're taking, and they just happen to be unwanted ones. So I watched Doctor Who, anybody? Doctor Who fans? One or two? Did you see the episode recently where they're on a planet, the world's ending, as it always is? It used to be in Doctor Who that it used to be the woman that got lost, or, I was Doctor Who's helper, I've been captured, and now just the world ends. I kind of got to that point. Anyway, the world was ending. They all went to a different planet, and on this planet, these robots were to keep people happy. They were there. That was their prime purpose, to make sure that people were happy. So, lovely gardens, lovely food, lovely environment. And then what happened was they discovered that the best way to make people happy was to just shoot all of the sad people. Yeah, happy, but unhappy today. Depression. Yeah, and everyone was happy. That was a great idea. But that's a kind of an unwanted side effect. And I'm going to tell you a story now that I don't know if I'm allowed to tell. So it may or may not have happened. I work for an insurance company, and we may or may not have been writing some code in order to help reduce the number of high-risk insurance policies we were selling. We were paying out too much money to these high-risk policies. So we wrote some software, put some things in, and we reduced the number of high-risk policies by quite a significant number. Hurrah! But then we discovered that actually we had reduced all our policies considerably. We were selling very little insurance, which isn't really what you want. So the important thing is here that you not just look at the one thing, you have to look at the whole gambit of all of your KPIs in any situation, really to give you a flavor of how good your feature, product, or whatever it is. So going back to our hypothesis again, we will know we will have succeeded 5%. Well, yeah, we could book out that one room that's in that picture for the next 6 months. Bookings go up great, but the rest of the rooms are empty. There's no rebooking. People are coming along because they're so excited about what they see, and they get there disappointed. They don't book again. So there's lots of things that we have to take into consideration as well as just that one thing. Do we have confidence? I don't think so. So next, sample size. Now, I want to avoid talking about scientific statistical tests because they're a little bit boring. But there's one important thing to know, and that is that the larger your sample size, the less significant the increase must be in order that it is statistically significant. So let's say you've got you've got 100 people, and you get 20% of an increase. That's really good. You got 4 people, and one person does something different. Maybe that's not so good. So really, the statistical tests are there to determine whether or not what you're seeing could have happened by chance. So in any experiment that you do, the more you have, the more confident you can be. So in our example again, back hotel room, you choose that 5%. If it's a small boutique hotel with 40 rooms, that doesn't really represent a big increase. If it's booking.com and you get 5%, maybe it does. So it's important to know as well that the size of your sample. And finally, that's the last one. So do we have confidence, everyone together? I don't think so. Okay. So science has offered us a means to get around these problems. Whenever you submit a paper to the scientific community, you must have addressed every single one of these, either explicitly or in another way that allows them to be able to assess how valid your results are. And this is the bit that's missing from hypothesis-driven development. So all of these things. Does the metric sufficiently define what it claims to define? When you smiled, were you happy? If I performed it again, would I get the same results? Are there any other unaccounted influences? That's your confounding variables. Do they scale? If it's a bigger image in a hotel, is it going to be a bigger image when I'm selling cars? And do we have any undesirable results that we kind of weren't anticipating? And they've given us ways to deal with all of those things. And I'll not go through them now, for love of my time. How are we doing? Okay. So, yeah, there's a number of things that you can do. Repeat your tests, do A/B testing, feature toggling, measure the complete set of factors, change one factor only. Triangulation is another thing you can do. So you're taking observations for sure. The whole thing about hypothesis-driven development is to look for metrics, what people are actually, how they're behaving. But you can also triangulate that with what they're saying or what they're doing, or you can run a focus group. There's other ways of gathering more data about the same thing so that you've got more confidence about what your results are. And yeah, see what's been done before is always another thing to do as well. So all those things cost money and take a lot of effort. You want to sit down and design an experiment for your product. And the whole thing about being lean is to get products out there as quickly as you can. So this is kind of an anti-pattern. If you're going to sit back and go, right, okay, I've got to do all these things. I've got to work out about A/B testing. How am I going to do this? I'm going to do that. So maybe there's a way that we can think about when to do it and when not to do it, because not every situation is going to warrant that level of rigor. So really, if you think about it, it's the priority. When you put requirements in priority, we all do this. So the more critical ones, the ones that add the most value, the more costly, whether they affect a huge amount of customers, what impact it has to the business, all of those things will help you know how important this feature is, and therefore how much confidence you need to have in the results of your test, and therefore how much rigor you need to build into the process of hypothesis-driven development. And the other way of doing it, and I'm really nervous now, I actually don't really want to talk about this at all, but basically, if you're in a simple part, you probably don't need to experiment at all because you know what you're doing. Complicated is where it works really well because you've got unknown situation and some uncertainty. You can go out and do experiments. I would think that it would work well in complex as well, but Liz can probably tell me differently. And chaotic, well, I don't even know how you'd set up an experiment because you're in chaos. But really, I'm going to leave that there, okay. Move on. Hypothesis. So let's have a look now what it might look like if we did it, hypothesis-driven development in the way that follows more of the scientific method. So we do before and after. We take a static number of all KPIs throughout the course of our experiments, test often different times, different seasons, different people, different cohorts. We do triangulation, and we use the right statistical tests whenever we get all of our data in. We don't just go 5% increase, draw a pretty graph, ooh, that's good. We actually sit down and spend some time doing the stats properly so that we actually know what they mean. And that's nearly it. The last conference I went to, someone said, oh, there's no good presentation without a unicorn. So I'm bringing that to you today. Here's the unicorn. The important thing is not the unicorn, but the ballet thing. When I was a little girl learning ballet and musical instruments, I was always taught to learn the classical way first. So if I wanted to go off and do hip-hop or whatever strange thing that I was into, the instructors always said, no, learn how it works, learn how your body moves, learn the notes, learn the theory, do it all the classical way first, and then mess about with it if you want to. The same goes for HDD. If you understand what the hypotheses actually mean and how they work first, then you've got all that behind you. Then feel free to go and bend the rules if you like, but know what they are to begin with so that you can always know when your results come back what they actually mean and drive your product in the way that it should go. So that's all from me. Has anybody got any questions? Nope. Good, go.
Thank you, Sharon.